y'all. Good evening. Just kind of an unscheduled webcast. I was just outside. Looks like there's some spider webs or something floating in that camera field of view. I don't know what that is. But anyway, let's see what's happening. Okay, Jupiter. Yeah, we can definitely see that out there, just behind that cirrus. Very colorful when I went out there and looked, but the camera is just not picking up those reds and oranges. All right, taking a look at the charts. Let's look at the surface analysis. We're going to take a look at the pressure field. And I'm running a Barnes analysis, which is a little bit different than the nearest neighbor analysis. So what that means is that we get more smoothing over the oceanic areas, for example, and less of it where there's dense station networks. So we can get some really nice, you can see that high up there in Canada, very nice smoothing of the contours even offshore. So let's plot the observations. All right, a little bit of cold air coming out of Canada, some 40s and 50s up there, and looks like the front is just up there to the north. And I'll plot that front very quickly. Looks like it runs maybe something like this. Okay, and then the warm front, I don't know, it looks kind of like a backdoor system in the Dakotas. So maybe something like this. That would be a alternating, let me try the stationary front. Yeah, it looks like one of those going on there. Oh, I drew it the wrong way, but anyway. Looks like we pick up the boundary around Duluth and Lake Superior. And that's our front up there in the northern plains. And you can see how warm it is out over the Rockies. 82 there at Casper, 86 at Denver. Much warmer than what we have in Mississippi right now. And 85 there in Salt Lake City. And that's very warm because this is a elevated air mass, and that means if we bring it to sea level, it's going to be very warm. So I can show you that in the theta analysis. This is potential temperature. We're reducing all of the temperatures to sea level. And when we do that, we get a map like this, and yeah, you can see all the warm air there in New Mexico. So this is definitely, I didn't want that to come up, but anyway, that's definite desert air in the Four Corners region. And let me reduce the smoothing a little bit. Let's see if I can get some better results here. And I'm going to replot that potential temperature field. Because it looked very smooth and I wasn't able to find like frontal gradients. And this is a little bit better. Yeah, you see the packing of contours in Montana. That's... Looks like we got a little problem there, but anyway, now I'm losing my voice. Okay. Anyway, there you can see the frontal gradient. Looks like maybe it's a little bit stronger down in the Rapid City area. And looks like some of it is banked up in the West Texas area right there. And over California, you can kind of see the influence of the maritime layer offshore. Makes it very hard to find contrasts inland. because we get that inevitable smoothing along the coastline. And AWIPS is definitely better with that. I don't know if you've seen any AWIPS fields, but they handle the coastal areas very well. So I may look at implementing something like that into digital atmosphere here soon. Anyway, the cold air, we can see it's centered over Kentucky. So there's the 292 potential temperature line over Cincinnati, Nashville, and Evansville. Okay, it may sound like I'm just kind of rambling on, talking about the weather, but what I'm doing is I'm kind of building up a picture of the conditions across the country. I'm taking mental notes as I go, so I know where the warm air is and where the cold air is, and that means that in between we're going to have that jet stream from about probably Montana all the way down to Texas. Cold air on the left and warm air on the right. Let's see if there's any other cool fields we can look at. Let's look at dew point. See if we have any moisture coming up from the Gulf. Okay, yeah, we do have a little bit of moisture, remnants of Irma. And looks like that has ended up back down south. So we've precipitated into a lot of this air and only a little pocket of dry air around Kentucky and West Virginia. And definite dry air over the deserts and Rockies. And some mid-60s there in Minnesota. So I'm going to expect to see the theta E values kind of high in that area. All right, I guess we can take a look at the charts and see what's going on across the U.S. Today. Okay, so it's the 13th. There's the remnants of Irma still hanging on there in Ohio and Kentucky. We have smoke over the northern plains here, and definite frontal systems that are active in Canada here. Let's take a look at Europe. Got a major cyclone there over the North Sea, just west of Denmark. And you can see this baroclinic leaf here, indicating a possible frontal system in that area. So we might be looking for a system kind of like this. It's a little bit off the chart there, but let's try that again. And looks like we have another one up to the north too. There's a occluded low. That's the one over the North Sea area, and I think there's probably another front tied in, maybe something like this. And then the occlusion would go in like that. And you notice the broadening of the mid-level cloud bands here in Sweden and the Baltics. That is associated with the warm air advection wing north of the warm front. So you have to keep that in mind when you're analyzing. So this is kind of a baroclinic leaf right here. So you see that shape there? Kind of resembles what we have over France. That other shape, kind of like that. So this is kind of a warm air advection region here, and another one right there over the Baltics. Actually, the Baltic Sea. And then looking in Russia, it's hard to tell because the satellite is kind of cut in two here. But looks like some unstable air back in Belarus, western Ukraine there. And looks like some warm air advection out ahead of that. So that's a good sign that there's probably an active front in that region. Looks like a lot of frontal activity over western Siberia here. And look over eastern Siberia. We have fog popping up in the valleys, which means cold air mass taking root in eastern Siberia. This is kind of like the start of winter there. So let me see if I can zoom in on that. Look at some of that fog there. Wow, look at how that's just kind of trapped in those valleys there. Then it kind of spreads out over the flat terrain here, but you can kind of see how it's kind of pocketed there into the valleys and passes. Air mass over the sea north of, I guess that's the Laptev Sea. Looks got a very cold look to it. And let me take a look at the surface map and see what's going on. And yeah, you can see they're covered with high pressure, 1025 millibar high, and temperatures right around, you can see lots of 20s in this region right here. 20s here. And yeah, let me move the map and you can take a look at that a little bit more conventionally. Yeah, we're kind of taking the show on the road and looking at weather around the world. Because this is a transition season and there's a lot going on. Okay, so there's eastern Russia. And at this time, let me see if I can add a few more plots. Yeah, look at those temperatures inland, 20s showing up, 20s and 30s, and there's that cold north wind coming across Pevek and Tixi, places like that. And some of it spreading into far eastern Siberia right there. Looks like it's kind of headed towards Alaska a little bit. So winter is definitely underway there in Siberia. And wow, look at that 24 with fog, 1/16 of a mile. So yeah, we're talking about this area right here, very cold in eastern Siberia. Okay, we've got a typhoon around Taiwan, crossing just southwest of Okinawa there. Switch out the satellites here. Looks like the remnants of another typhoon west of the Philippines. I'm really up. My voice is doing pretty bad because I failed to hydrate before I went on the air. See if that helps. Okay, our friends in Australia, Mick down there. I don't know if Mick's here. I haven't looked at chat yet, but we've got a bit of cold air advection coming into the Adelaide and Melbourne area over the Great Australian Bight here. You can see these open cell clouds, very characteristic of a very unstable air mass. Looks like a lot of cold air spreading in, cold air aloft over warmer ocean waters there. And right now, September, October, November, December, January, February. It's kind of like March in Australia right now. So it's spring and starting to warm up. And let me see if I can get a plot in Australia, which is something we never really do here. Bring this down under and plot that. And there we go. Yeah, there's that cold wind from the polar region spreading over Adelaide. And a stray marking on my map. Sorry about that. So everything's a little bit upside down, and I'll show you one trick that I use when I'm really trying to analyze weather down south. I copy the frame, bring it into PaintShop Pro, and it's a very interesting trick. So watch this. Here's Australia, and I go to Image, and then Flip. So you see what I've done. I've made Australia upside down, and now the Coriolis force is more like what we would see in the Northern Hemisphere. This would be a very interesting landmass if this was in the Northern Hemisphere here. So you can kind of see the domination of the oceanic air masses there. So there's the north. This would be northwest wind spreading in, north wind spreading into the deserts. That's what we would see in North America. And then on the other side, high pressure in the middle. So here's the cold air spreading to the south. Then on the other side, we've got the warm air coming up from what would be the south. So kind of a cold pattern there in Australia also. Sorry. Let me grab another drink here. Okay, so Sydney is located in this area right here. So they're getting a little taste of that cold air as it sweeps towards the coast. But you can see they've just had a frontal passage, the front lying right offshore right here. So they've got some bad weather kind of clearing up, and just kind of cold and blustery there right now. So if you want to be able to forecast in Australia, that's a cheap trick for doing that. Just flip the map. Okay, so we got Jose out there in the Atlantic Category 1 storm, and that is going to be recurving on Saturday. So it looks like that may graze Cape Cod there, but that should be out of the picture. Cold air in the eastern U.S., usually that is very favorable for recurvature because the steering flow sets up like this, and that pushes the storms back out to sea. And obviously when we have hot weather, that's more favorable for bringing the storms into the interior region. Okay, 200 millibar chart for tonight. It's looking like this. Actually, this is from this morning, but there's that southerly tropical flow well south of Texas, and then we have the main polar front jet way up to the north, up in this region here. And then just stepping down to 850 millibars, there's the remnants of Irma over southern Illinois. And there's the water vapor imagery. Looks a little different from yesterday, a little less spectacular as the moisture moves back in. A lot of mid-level moisture, especially from all this storm activity in the Rockies, spreading some dew points in the 30s and 40s, and some 50s across the Central Plains there. And then the much drier air starting to disappear there. It looks like the center of the circulation is somewhere over Kentucky. And there it is. So Irma slowed to dissipate right there over Kentucky, and then we've got the warmer air mass over the Rockies producing evening thunderstorms in that region. Okay, so let's just go ahead and take a look at the forecast. This ended up being kind of a long production, I thought, because of my sleep schedule. I thought I would be asleep right now, but let's see here. Right, so there's our polar front up to the north, from Oregon to Montana to North Dakota. Southerly flows starting to set up across the southern plains, mostly in the Rio Grande and West Texas. So over the next several days, we're just going to see the front very slowly sinking south. There's very little upper air support, so we don't see very strong cyclogenesis right off the bat, just kind of a very broad low pressure across the Rockies, where we have the warmer theta temperatures, the warmer potential temperatures. That air there is less dense, and we see lower atmospheric pressures there. So the cold air continues sinking south. By Saturday, it's coming into Cheyenne and western Nebraska there. Snow developing in the higher elevations of Montana. And a very stout southerly flow across the central plains there. For Sunday, looks like we finally get a system coming together there in Minnesota. Then we get the classic mature frontal system. And the tail end, something like that. A few thunderstorms developing across Iowa and Kansas City down to Wichita on Sunday. And then it'll quickly move northeast into the Great Lakes area. Front stalls out across Minnesota or Missouri, in Kansas and to Colorado like that. And then it lifts back north as a warm front, and there it is on Monday, producing some thunderstorm activity in Iowa there. The frontal system gets recharged for another outbreak. There it is across the Rockies. And then we see things really get active around midweek in Wyoming and Colorado. Very strong thickness gradient, and especially Las Vegas. Look at that, 552 with snow in the higher elevations around Tonopah, Austin, and Ely. There goes Jose off the coast there. So things getting very active in the west. We'll have a lot to look at. It as that emerges out into the Great Plains. Looks like that comes out dry. Looks like something interesting going on there in Minnesota. Very strong southerly flow in place here. But looks like we're not bringing up quite enough moisture to get... Yeah, there it goes. Storms going up on Wednesday night, the 20th. Plenty of cold air coming in from the northern plains there. And then just continuing on, a very deep system there, occluding in Saskatchewan for Friday. Man, that went very deep there. Let's see here. 967 millibars. Yeah, 967. So that would be, well, the wind speed relation is different as you get into different latitudes, but 967 in lower latitudes, that would probably be like a Cat 1 or Cat 2 storm there. Maybe Cat 1. In any case, very deep system there. Let me see what that is. Let me run that through the calculator, see how many inches that is. (967) divided by 33.8636. That's the pressure in inches. 28.55 inches on the barometer. That is way down there. In fact, I think the record in Texas, outside of a hurricane, probably something like 29 inches. So 28.55, that is way down there. And then for the 24th, 25th, 26th, looks pretty quiet. Looks like a very weak front sags into Texas. Then we get another outbreak coming south. Little action in the tropics around Florida. And there's our next outbreak around the 29th. And we got October about to come up in the GFS. So just 2 weeks from now. All right. Well, I'm probably going to go ahead and hydrate and get my voice back. And wrap it up for tonight. And let me just take a quick look at chat. We got David and Ryan, Alex, David Holcomb, and David Moore. Ryan dropped off generators. We have Mike R. and Felix Lopez. Eddie W., Fun with Tech. Ryan says the Florida Keys are off limits from the general public. Military flying in assets and resources for building the infrastructure. Big thunderstorms by Lake Tahoe there from Mike R. We have Zalcuda here. A little discussion there about tropical weather. 26 deaths reported in Cuba from Irma. And we got Megan John up there in Minnesota. Got to 86 degrees today. Wow. Jumping flash and Alex is wondering if Irma is causing polar air jet waves to pile up. Well, yeah, Irma has locked up the pattern just a little bit, but that's starting to open up and move on out. Sue M thought no show tonight. Yeah, it was kind of a last-minute decision to go on. And David sent me an email about the software. Okay. Anyway, that's about all I got for tonight. I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, I'm going to grab some water here and rest, and hopefully you all have a good evening. And we will see you tomorrow night. Take care.